Early in my ministry, within the first couple of months, if I recall correctly, I was talking with a congregant, a man probably in his mid-50s, whose mother had recently died. Reading between the lines, listening between the lines, he was upset, angry even that he had gotten so far in life without knowing that grief can turn your world upside down. He had thought he understood what it meant to be alive and live, and here the loss of his mother had stopped him in his tracks. I was in my early 30s then. My father had died of pancreatic cancer several years before. So while this man was at least 20 years my senior, I realized I may have had experience with something he was just beginning to experience. And it dawned on me that grief work might just be an important part of my overall ministry. So this morning, the last Sunday in October, for years, almost 30 years, I have been doing a remembrance ceremony on this Sunday. And without telling you that this is what I always do, we have pumpkins and Dia de los Muertos skull here, and it's all perfect. Thank you, whoever intuited my hopes. There is a small altar. I asked in the last two Church Mouse, our Friday blast emails, for you to bring in photographs and share photographs of those who have died, that have loved ones of yours who have died in the last couple years. Several did online. We'll share their photographs in just a couple minutes. And then you will have an opportunity to put photographs, if you brought any. A couple did, that's fine. If it's not more, my mom and dad are down there, pictures of each of them. And you see my dad, he's swimming. He's not naked. He's got his swim trunks on. But that was just before his diagnosis. That was his last truly, truly happy day, as I see it. But I'm biased. And often I will, in these Sundays, tell a bit of a story from someone in my life. And I want to tell you a little bit about James. I don't remember his last name. He was a dorm mate my sophomore year in college. Halfway through my freshman year and all through my sophomore year, I lived in one of the few co-ed dorms at the University of Iowa in Ames, Iowa. It's called Fisher-Nickel House. And after a semester in an all-guys dorm, I realized I needed something a little more civilized. What I didn't anticipate was there in the co-ed dorms, I had sisters for the first time in my life. It was wonderful. Now, and one of my best friends my sophomore year was James. To tell you a little bit about James, this really is a story of two phone calls. And the first was one, he was from a small rural town in Iowa, and he was in school, and the world was opening up for him. And in 1986, he made a long-distance phone call, when we had such things, to the U.S. Embassy in West Berlin, and spoke, and we gathered around him as he was on the call. We didn't have speakerphones then, so we just heard his side of it, for almost half an hour, to Marine Sergeant Carl C. Ford, if I remember correctly. And the sergeant told him about the boredom of guard duty, what it was like there at the embassy in Berlin, about his buddies in the Marines. And he also talked at length about the standoffishness of young German women. Now, that was in '86. James sent me a very thick envelope 30 years ago now, in the fall of '95. It was his coming out package. Included was essays that he had found valuable, a short story that he had written, and a 4-page handwritten letter to me where he came out as a young gay man. He didn't know at that time that I had graduated from seminary and was doing a post-seminary student chaplaincy at San Francisco General Hospital. And my focus was in the room or ward 5A, which was the inpatient AIDS unit. Spent some time in the emergency department as well, but most of it was with AIDS patients. And we were talking, he called me a couple weeks later, or maybe I called him and he included his phone number in that thick packet of his. And so he was catching me up, and then after a while, he said, "So what are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I graduated, but I've still got this chaplaincy to finish, and then I'll need to think about getting a church. But right now I'm in San Francisco working with AIDS patients." And he got off the call as quickly as he could. I've never spoken to James again. And what I was going to say at the beginning was that I hadn't thought about that phone call in years. Coming back to California, I'm remembering different things. This is one of those things I'm remembering. Now, I don't know why James chose to end the phone call. This was before our current round, or the first round of antiretrovirals. AIDS was a death sentence at that time. So maybe he thought I was evangelical. He didn't know much about Unitarian Universalism. Maybe he thought I was a hell and brimstone kind of preacher and was there to change the hearts before people died. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Or did he simply fear the disease enough to end the phone call with a friend? I don't think I'll ever know. But I miss James. The spirit that would call the U.S. Embassy in Berlin before the wall came down and refuse help to pay the phone bill, because that would have been significant back in '86. So even though James and I were not lovers, we were friends. But friendship is a form of love, and it's worth honoring all forms of love as we gather. I want to share some words by the late Unitarian Universalist minister Forrest Church, and then after that, if you have any photographs to bring up, you can do that. If there's not room on the little stand, you can use space here. But you'll also see a bowl of salt and a bowl of water. Anyone who would care to can come forward and salt the water before us. Let us honor our losses, our loves, our griefs by making salt water together. The words of my late colleague, Forrest Church. After death, our bodies may be resurrected. Our souls may transmigrate or become part of the heavenly pleroma. You need an SAT level vocabulary for Forrest Church. But I've edited the rest of it. We may join our loved ones in heaven, or we may return the constituent parts of our being to the earth from which it came and rest in eternal peace. About life after death, no one knows. But about this we surely know: there is love after death. Not only do our finest actions invest life with meaning and purpose, but they also live on after us. 2 centuries from now, the last tracings of our being will yet express themselves in little works of love that follow bead by bead, in a luminous chain, extending from our dear ones out into the world and then on into the next, strung out by our loving hands. Death is love's measure, not only as our grief when someone dies, testimony to our love, but when we ourselves die, the love we have given to others is the only thing death can't kill. Only our unspent love dies when we die.